First contact. The vastness of space stretched before Captain Ilara Chen as she guided the mining vessel Helios through the asteroid belt of the Tau Ceti system. Her crew of 20 had been working tirelessly for months, extracting rare minerals from the rocky debris that orbited the distant star. It was grueling work, but the payoff would be worth it, or so the Earth government had promised. Ilara's fingers danced across the holographic controls, adjusting the ship's course to avoid a particularly dense cluster of asteroids. The Helios responded smoothly, its advanced propulsion system allowing for precise maneuvers in the treacherous field. "Captain," called out Marcus, her second-in-command, from the sensor station. "I'm picking up an anomalous reading at coordinates 227 by 114. Ilara frowned, her dark eyes narrowing as she pulled up the sensor data on her own display. "That can't be right," she muttered. "There shouldn't be anything that large out here." The readings showed a massive object, easily 10 times the size of the Helios, hiding in the shadow of a moon-sized asteroid. Its composition was unlike anything they had encountered before, a mix of metals and organic materials that defied easy categorization. "Should we investigate?" Marcus asked, his voice tinged with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Ilara hesitated. Their mission parameters were clear: extract resources and avoid unnecessary risks. But the scientist in her, the part that had driven her to explore the stars in the first place, couldn't resist the allure of the unknown. "Prepare a shuttle," she decided. "We'll send a small team to investigate. Marcus, you're with me. Dr. Amelia Reeves, our xenobiologist, would join us as well." As the shuttle detached from the Helios and made its way toward the mysterious object, Ilara felt a mix of emotions churning in her gut: excitement, fear, and a sense of destiny she couldn't quite explain. Little did she know that this moment would change the course of human history forever. The shuttle's footlights illuminated the surface of the object as they approached. What they saw took their breath away. It wasn't an asteroid or a derelict ship. It was a living, breathing entity. The surface pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and as they watched, an opening appeared, like a giant eye slowly blinking open. "My God," whispered Dr. Reeves, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's inviting us in." Ilara made a split-second decision. "We're going in. Everyone suit up and prepare for first contact protocols." As they entered the organic structure, gravity seemed to shift, allowing them to walk on what should have been walls. The air was breathable, filled with a sweet alien scent, and then they saw them, the inhabitants of this living ship. Tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin and large, almond-shaped eyes approached. Their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic. One of them stepped forward, its eyes fixed on Ilara. "We have waited so long," it said, its voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "You are the ones who will save us." Ilara struggled to maintain her composure. I'm Captain Ilara Chen of the Earth mining vessel Helios. We come in peace." The alien's eyes seemed to shimmer with emotion. "I am Zara, last queen of the Luminary. Our race faces extinction, and you, humans, are our last hope." Over the next few hours, Zara explained their dire situation. The Luminari were an ancient race, once spanning galaxies, but a genetic degradation had left them unable to reproduce. Their numbers had dwindled to mere thousands, and they were desperate for a solution. "Our scientists have studied your species from afar," Zara said. "We believe that human DNA holds the key to our survival, but we need your help, your brilliance, to unlock its potential." Ilara listened, her mind reeling from the implications. This wasn't just first contact. It was a plea for salvation from an advanced alien race. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, the responsibility almost too much to bear. We're just a mining crew," Ilara said, her voice shaking slightly. "We don't have the resources or expertise to help with something like this." Zora's eyes seemed to pierce right through her. "But you have something far more valuable, the human spirit. Your species has overcome countless obstacles, adapted to challenges that would have destroyed others. That is what we need." As they talked, Dr. Reeves was busy taking readings, her excitement growing with each passing moment. "Captain," she interrupted, "the genetic markers they're describing, they're incredibly similar to some of the rarest human genetic variations. It's as if we were meant to find each other." Marcus, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "This is way above our pay grade, Captain. We need to contact Earth, get the big brains involved." Ilara nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at a crossroads of history. "We'll help however we can," she told Zara. "But we need to inform our government, bring in experts." Zara's expression was one of profound relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Captain Chen. You give us hope where there was none. We will share all we know, all we have, in exchange for your help." As they prepared to return to the Helios, Ilara's mind was racing. How would Earth react to this news? What could it mean for humanity to save an alien race? And why did she feel like she, personally, had a larger role to play in all of this? The shuttle ride back to the Helios was silent, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. Ilara knew that the moment they sent their report back to Earth, everything would change. Humanity was about to step onto a much larger stage, and she had a feeling they would need every ounce of their legendary resilience and ingenuity to face the challenges ahead. As the Helios came into view, Ilara made a decision. "Marcus, prepare a secure channel to Earth Command. Dr. Rees, I want a full report on everything you've observed. We're about to make history, and we need to get it right." The stars seemed to shine a little brighter as the Helios turned away from the asteroid field, carrying with it the hopes of an alien race and the future of humanity. The adventure was just beginning, and Ilara Chen, once a simple mining captain, now found herself at the heart of humanity's greatest challenge yet. Part 2. The Chosen One. 6 months after the historic first contact with the Luminary, Earth was abuzz with activity. The news of an alien race in need of humanity's help had sparked a global initiative unlike anything seen before. Scientists, politicians, and civilians alike were caught up in the excitement and challenge of saving an entire species. At the heart of this whirlwind was Dr. Lyra Novak, a brilliant young bioengineering prodigy whose unorthodox theories on genetic manipulation had once made her an outcast in the scientific community. Now those same theories had thrust her into the spotlight as humanity's best hope for solving the Luminary's genetic crisis. Lyra stood in her lab at the newly established Interspecies Genetic Research Center, her wild curls escaping from a messy bun as she pored over holographic displays of Luminary DNA. Dark circles under her eyes betrayed countless sleepless nights, but the fire of determination burned bright in her gaze. "Dr. Novak," a voice called from the doorway. Lyra looked up to see Captain Ilara Chen, the woman who had made first contact with the Luminary. In the months since their meeting, Ilara had become Earth's primary liaison with the alien race. "Captain Chen," Lyra greeted her, straightening up. "Any news from our glowing friends?" Ilara's expression was grave. "They shared more of their medical data. It's not good, Lyra. Their population is declining faster than we thought. We're running out of time." Lyra's jaw clenched. She'd known the situation was dire, but hearing it confirmed sent a chill down her spine. How long? "A year, maybe 2, before their numbers become unsustainable." Lyra ran a hand through her hair, dislodging even more curls from her bun. "Damn it. We're close to a breakthrough, I can feel it. But you need more time," Ilara finished for her. Lyra nodded, frustration evident in every line of her body. "There's something we're missing. Some key to unlocking the compatibility between human and Luminary DNA. If I could just..." She trailed off, her eyes suddenly widening. "Wait a minute. Captain, you said they shared new medical data. Can I see it?" Ilara pulled out a data crystal and handed it to Lyra. The scientist plugged it into her computer, and new streams of information flowed across her holographic displays. Lyra's fingers flew across the interface, correlating data points and running simulations at a dizzying pace. "This is it," she breathed, her excitement growing. "Look at these protein markers. They're almost identical to a rare human genetic variation found in less than 0.01% of the population. If we could find someone with this variation, we might be able to create a viable hybrid embryo." Elara leaned in, trying to make sense of the complex genetic data. "That's great news, but finding someone with such a rare genetic marker, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack." Lyra's expression fell slightly, but then a determined glint appeared in her eye. "Then we'll search every haystack on Earth if we have to. We can't give up now." Over the next weeks, a global search was launched. Millions of people volunteered for genetic testing, hoping to be the key to saving an alien race. The world watched with bated breath as the results trickled in. And then, against all odds, they found a match. Lyra stared at the genetic profile on her screen, her heart pounding. The match was perfect, almost too perfect, and the name attached to the profile made her breath catch in her throat. "It can't be," she whispered. "What is it?" Elara asked, concern evident in her voice. Lyra turned to her, her face pale. "The match. It's me." The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community and beyond. Lyra Novak, the very scientist working to save the Luminari, was the genetic key they had been searching for. It seemed too coincidental to be true, and yet the data was irrefutable. As the news spread, Lyra found herself at the center of a storm of ethical debates, scientific scrutiny, and media frenzy. The pressure was immense, and the weight of an entire alien race's survival now rested squarely on her shoulders. Late one night, as Lyra sat alone in her lab, grappling with the implications of her discovery, she received an unexpected visitor. Queen Zara of the Luminari, accompanied by Captain Chen, glided into the room, her bioluminescent skin casting a soft glow. "Dr. Novak," Zara's mental voice was filled with a mixture of hope and concern. "We have felt your turmoil from afar. Are you well?" Lyra looked up, her eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep and stress. I don't know," she admitted. "This is all happening so fast. The fate of your entire species might depend on my genes, on my choice. It's overwhelming." Zara approached, her movements fluid and graceful. She reached out, her iridescent hand hovering near Lyra's face. "May I?" she asked. Lyra nodded, and Zara's cool fingers touched her temple. Instantly, Lyra felt a sense of calm wash over her, along with a deeper understanding of the Luminari's plight. She saw flashes of their once great civilization, the slow decline, the fear and desperation that had driven them across the galaxy in search of hope. When Zara withdrew her hand, Lyra's eyes were filled with tears. "I had no idea," she whispered. "Now you understand," Zara said softly. "But know this, Lyra Novak, we ask for your help, not your sacrifice. The choice must be yours, freely given." Elara stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Whatever you decide, you won't be alone. Earth stands with you." Lyra took a deep breath, her brilliant mind already racing with possibilities. "I need to run more tests to understand exactly how my genetic makeup could help. But if it works, if we can create a viable hybrid, then you would be the mother of a new generation," Zara finished. "A bridge between our species." The enormity of the situation hit Lyra anew, but this time, instead of feeling overwhelmed, she felt a sense of purpose. This was why she had become a scientist, to push the boundaries of knowledge, to make a difference. "I'll do it," Lyra said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "I'll find a way to save your people, and in doing so, perhaps we'll unlock new potential for humanity as well." Zara's eyes shimmered with emotion, and Elara squeezed Lyra's shoulder in support. In that moment, the fate of two species was set on a new course, with Lyra Novak, scientist, genetic anomaly, and now the chosen one, at its heart. As Lara turned back to her work with renewed vigor, she knew the road ahead would be challenging. But with the combined brilliance of human and luminary science, the support of her own species, and the unique gift written in her very DNA, she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The stars outside her lab window seemed to twinkle with new possibility, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what this unlikely alliance between humans and luminary would bring. Alien politics. As weeks turned into months, Lara Novak found herself thrust into a world far more complex than the sterile environment of her lab. The luminary, despite their dwindling numbers, were not a monolithic society. Like any advanced civilization, they had their own political factions, competing ideologies, and deeply held beliefs. And now, Lyra was at the center of it all. The human scientist sat in a vast chamber aboard the luminary mothership, feeling small and out of place among the tall, ethereal aliens. The room pulsed with soft bioluminescence, reflecting the tense atmosphere of the gathered assembly. Queen Zara sat at the head of the council, her presence commanding even in silence. Dr. Novak, one of the luminary elders, addressed her, his mental voice tinged with skepticism. "You claim to have made progress, yet we see no results. How can we be sure this is not simply another false hope?" Lyra took a deep breath, reminding herself that she'd have faced tough audiences before. This was just another presentation, albeit with much higher stakes. "Counselor," she began, her voice steady, "I understand your concerns, but I assure you, we are making significant strides. The integration of human and luminary DNA is incredibly complex, but we've successfully created several viable embryos in vitro." A murmur rippled through the assembled luminary, a mixture of hope and disbelief. Another council member, her skin shimmering with patterns of doubt, spoke up. "And what are the ethical implications? Are we to become a hybrid species, losing our pure luminary heritage?" This was the argument Lyra had been dreading, but one she knew she had to address head-on. "With all due respect, Counselor, your heritage is not just in your DNA. It's in your culture, your knowledge, your very way of being. This process isn't about replacing who you are, but about ensuring your people have a future at all." Queen Zara nodded approvingly, but Lyra could sense the tension in the room growing. She realized that for many luminary, this was about more than just survival. It was about identity, about the very essence of what it meant to be luminary. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the mental chatter. "And what of the humans? How do we know they won't use this process to exploit us, to create weapons, or take our technology?" Lyra turned to face the new speaker, a luminary with intricate patterns swirling across his iridescent skin. She recognized him as Vex, leader of a conservative faction that had been skeptical of human involvement from the start. "Ambassador Vex," Lyra addressed him, keeping her voice calm but firm. "Humanity has committed its full support to this project. The research we're conducting is open and transparent. We're here to help, not to exploit." Vex's eyes narrowed. "Pretty words, human, but actions speak louder. How convenient that you, the very scientist working on this project, turn out to be the genetic key. It seems too perfect to be coincidence." Murmurs of agreement rippled through some members of the council. Lyra felt a flicker of anger, but she pushed it down. She needed to stay rational, to appeal to the luminary's logical nature. "I understand your suspicion, Ambassador," she said, "but consider this. What if it's not coincidence, but convergent evolution? What if, over millennia, our species have been moving towards this moment of compatibility? It's not just my genetics that make this possible, but the combined effort of human and luminary science." Queen Zara raised a hand, silencing the growing debate. Dr. Novak speaks wisely. Her mental voice resonated through the chamber. "We must not let fear cloud our judgment. This path may be uncertain, but the alternative is extinction." The Queen's words seemed to calm the assembly, but Lyra could still sense undercurrents of tension. She realized that winning over the Luminary Council was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, both scientific and political. As the meeting adjourned, Lara felt a gentle touch on her arm. She turned to see Zara standing beside her, concern evident in her luminous eyes. "You handled that well, Lyra," the Queen said softly. "But be warned, Vex and his followers will not give up easily. They fear change, and you represent the greatest change our people have faced in millennia." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling even heavier on her shoulders. "I understand, but I won't give up. Your people deserve a future, and I believe that future lies in cooperation between our species." Zara's expression softened. "Your determination gives me hope. Come, there's someone I want you to meet." The Queen led Lyra through the organic corridors of the ship, eventually arriving at a small, secluded chamber. Inside, a young luminary sat surrounded by holographic displays, her fingers dancing through the air as she manipulated complex genetic models. "Lyra, this is Aria," Zara introduced. "She's one of our most brilliant geneticists, and she's been working tirelessly on this project." Aria looked up, her eyes widening as she saw Lyra. "Dr. Novak, I studied all your work. Your theories on genetic recombination are revolutionary." Lyra felt a surge of warmth at the young alien's enthusiasm. "Thank you, Aria. I'd love to hear about your work as well. Perhaps we could collaborate." As the two scientists began to excitedly discuss their research, Zara watched with a mixture of hope and sadness. She knew that the path ahead would be difficult, but seeing Lyra and Aria working together, human and luminary united by their shared passion for knowledge, gave her renewed faith in their mission. Over the next few weeks, Lyra found herself splitting her time between the lab and the political arena. She worked closely with Aria, marveling at the young luminary's brilliant insights. Together, they made breakthroughs that neither could have achieved alone. But for every step forward in the lab, there seemed to be a new political hurdle to overcome. Vex and his faction continued to sow doubt, questioning every decision and demanding ever more transparency. One evening, as Lyra was reviewing some particularly promising data, she received an urgent message from Captain Chen. "Lyra, we've got a problem. There's been a leak. Someone's released partial data about the hybrid embryos to the Earth media. The public is in an uproar." Lyra felt her heart sink. She had been so focused on luminary politics that she had almost forgotten about the potential backlash on Earth. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Bad," Ilara replied grimly. "Religious groups are calling it an abomination. Conspiracy theorists think it's an alien plot to take over Earth. And that's not even mentioning the ethical debates raging in scientific circles." Lyra closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She had known this wouldn't be easy, but the magnitude of the challenge before her was becoming increasingly clear. She wasn't just fighting against time and scientific limitations. She was fighting against fear, prejudice, and millennia of ingrained beliefs on two worlds. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We face it head-on," Ilara said firmly. "You're not alone in this, Lyra. We'll hold a press conference, explain the situation clearly and calmly. We'll emphasize the potential benefits for both species, and we'll remind everyone that this is about saving lives." Lyra nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. "You're right. We can't back down now. Too much is at stake." As she prepared for the press conference, Lyra thought about everything that had led her to this moment. The years of study, the ridicule from her peers, the sleepless nights spent unraveling genetic mysteries, it had all been leading to this. She was no longer just a scientist. She was a bridge between two species, a symbol of hope for the luminary and a herald of a new era for humanity. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with scientific challenges and political pitfalls. But as Lyra stood before the cameras, ready to address the world, she felt a sense of purpose stronger than any she had ever known. Whatever trials lay ahead, she would face them. For the sake of two species, for the future they could build together, she would persevere. The lights of the press conference blazed to life, and Lyra began to speak, her voice clear and confident. People of Earth, citizens of the global community. I stand before you today not just as a scientist, but as a representative of humanity's greatest challenge and its greatest opportunity. Breakthrough. The world held its breath as Lyra Novak, once an outcast in the scientific community, now stood as humanity's ambassador to an alien race. Her press conference had been a masterclass in diplomacy and scientific communication, addressing fears and ethical concerns while emphasizing the potential for growth and discovery. But words alone weren't enough. Lyra knew that only concrete results would truly sway public opinion and silence the doubters among both humans and Luminari. And so she threw herself into her work with renewed vigor. Months passed in a blur of endless experimentation, setbacks, and small victories. Lyra worked tirelessly alongside Aria, the brilliant young Luminari geneticist, their collaboration bridging the gap between two vastly different scientific traditions. It was on a seemingly ordinary day, as Lyra was reviewing the latest batch of test results, that everything changed. Her eyes widened as she realized the implications of what she was seeing. "Aria," she called out, her voice trembling with excitement, "come look at this." The young Luminari hurried over, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with curiosity. As she examined the data, her eyes grew large. Could it be? Lyra nodded, a grin spreading across her face. "I think we've done it. We've created a stable hybrid embryo that's showing signs of both human and Luminari traits. And look at these markers. They suggest the potential for natural reproduction." Aria's skin flashed with patterns of joy and disbelief. This is beyond our wildest hopes. We need to inform the Council immediately." As news of the breakthrough spread, the atmosphere aboard the Luminari mothership transformed. Hope, an emotion many Luminari had almost forgotten, began to take root. Even some of Vex's most ardent supporters found it hard to argue with the results. But as Lyra soon discovered, success brought its own set of challenges. "Absolutely not," Lyra said firmly, standing before the Luminari Council. "I won't allow these embryos to be accelerated to maturity. It's too risky, and more importantly, it's unethical." Vex, the conservative leader who had opposed her at every turn, sneered. "You claim to want to save our people, yet you deny us the very solution we need. How convenient." Lyra took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm. This isn't about denying anything. It's about doing this right. These embryos represent the future of both our species. They deserve the chance to develop naturally, to be born and raised with care and love. Queen Zara nodded thoughtfully. "Dr. Novak is right. We have waited this long. We can wait a little longer to do this properly." As the debate raged on, Lyra found an unexpected ally in Aria. The young Luminari stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "Our ancestors built empires among the stars, but they did so with patience and wisdom. We should follow their example. This is not just about saving our species, but about building a new future. We must do so responsibly." Lyra felt a surge of pride for her young colleague. Together, they managed to convince the Council to proceed cautiously, allowing the embryos to develop at a natural pace. But even as this crisis was averted, a new one loomed on the horizon. Word of the successful hybrid embryos had leaked to Earth, and the reaction was intense. While many celebrated the scientific achievement, others saw it as a threat to humanity's future. Protests erupted outside research facilities, and politicians began calling for an immediate halt to the project. The delicate balance Lyra had been maintaining between two worlds began to teeter. It was Captain Elara Chen who came up with a daring solution. "We need to show them," she said during an emergency meeting. "Not just tell them, but show them what this means for both our species." Lyra frowned. "What are you suggesting?" Elara's eyes gleamed with determination. "A joint mission. Humans and Luminari, working together to explore a new world. We'll show everyone that our species can coexist, can achieve great things together." The idea was met with skepticism from both sides, But as the political pressure mounted, it began to gain traction. A suitable planet was chosen, a potentially habitable world in a nearby star system that both species had been eyeing for colonization. As preparations for the mission began, Laura found herself at the center of yet another storm. The question arose, who would lead this unprecedented joint venture? To her surprise, both humans and Luminari turned to her. Lyra protested at first, insisting that she was a scientist, not a leader. But as Queen Zora pointed out, she was uniquely positioned to understand both species, to bridge the gap between them. And so, Dr. Lyra Novak, the outcast scientist who would become humanity's greatest hope, found herself preparing to lead a mission that would shape the future of two species. As the day of launch approached, Laura stood in her lab one last time, looking out at the stars. She thought about the incredible journey that had brought her here, and the even more incredible journey that lay ahead. The hybrid embryos, carefully preserved, would travel with them, a symbol of the future they were fighting to create. Aria would be by her side, representing the best of Luminari science and the promise of cooperation between their species. Laura felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, but also a sense of excitement and purpose unlike anything she had ever known. They were about to embark on humanity's greatest adventure, a journey not just across space, but across the boundaries of species and cultures. As she turned to leave, her eyes fell on a small photo frame on her desk. It showed a much younger Lyra, standing proudly with her first published paper, the very theories that had once made her an outcast and now formed the foundation of this world-changing project. She smiled, picking up the frame and carefully packing it away. It would travel with her to the stars, a reminder of how far she had come and how much farther they all had yet to go. The next day, as Lyra boarded the ship that would carry them to their new future, she felt a sense of destiny. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. For in this great journey, humanity would prove its worth not through conquest or competition, but through cooperation, innovation, and the unquenchable spirit of exploration that had always defined their species. The stars beckoned, and Lyra Novak, once a lonely scientist, now the bridge between two species, was ready to answer their call. Humanity's legacy. The joint human Luminari expedition ship, aptly named Horizon, hung in orbit around Eden, the potentially habitable planet that would be their new home. After months of space travel, filled with both tense moments and breathtaking discoveries, they had finally reached their destination. Lyra Novak stood at the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the blue-green orb below. Eden was beautiful, reminiscent of Earth, but with its own unique features: twin moons, swirling purple clouds, and vast, shimmering oceans. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Aria's mental voice resonated beside her. The young Luminari had become not just a colleague, but a close friend during their journey. Lyra nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "It's more than I ever dreamed. And to think, we're the first to see it up close." Their moment of quiet awe was interrupted by Captain Chen's voice over the intercom. "Dr. Novak, we're ready for the landing party briefing." As Lyra made her way to the briefing room, she marveled at how far they had come. The Horizon's crew was a testament to what humans and Luminari could achieve together. Scientists, engineers, and explorers from both species had learned to work in harmony, their different strengths complementing each other in ways no one had anticipated. The briefing was tense but exciting. They had done all they could to prepare, but landing on an alien world was still fraught with unknowns. Lyra looked around the room, seeing determination and anticipation on every face, human and Luminari alike. "Remember," Lyra said as she concluded the briefing, "we're not just exploring a new world. We're building a new future for both our species. Every step we take on Eden is a step towards that future." The landing was a moment that would be etched in the annals of both human and Luminari history. As Lyra stepped onto the alien soil, feeling the soft purple grass beneath her feet and breathing in air tinged with unfamiliar, but not unpleasant sense. She felt a profound sense of awe. "That's one small step for a human," she said, her voice carried across millions of miles to the waiting populations of Earth and the luminary fleet, "and one giant leap for two species united in friendship." The first days on Eden were a whirlwind of activity. There were habitats to set up, experiments to run, and a whole world to explore. But amid the scientific frenzy, Laura never lost sight of the bigger picture. One evening, as the twin moons of Eden rose over the horizon, casting an ethereal glow over the alien landscape, Laura found a quiet moment with Aria. They sat on a hilltop overlooking their fledgling colony, the lights of the base twinkling in the distance. "I've been thinking," Lara said softly, "about the hybrid embryos." Aria's skin pulsed with patterns of curiosity. "What about them?" Lyra took a deep breath. I think it's time. This world, Eden, it's a fresh start for both our species. What better place for the first human luminary hybrid to be born?" Aria's eyes widened, her skin flashing with excitement. "Are you sure? This is a big step." Lyra nodded, her expression resolute. "I'm sure. We've come this far together. It's time to take the next step." The decision to bring the first hybrid child into the world was not made lightly. There were countless ethical discussions, medical preparations, and yes, more political hurdles to overcome. But in the end, the spirit of exploration and hope that had brought them to Eden prevailed. 9 months later, under the purple skies of their new home, the first human luminary child was born. They named her Aurora, for she represented the dawn of a new era for both species. Aurora was a wonder, a perfect blend of human and luminary traits. She had Lyra's curly hair and inquisitive eyes, but her skin shimmered with bioluminescence, and she could communicate telepathically like the luminary. As she grew, she showed an intelligence and adaptability that surpassed even the most optimistic predictions. Years passed, and the colony on Eden flourished. More hybrid children were born, each one a new miracle, a new bridge between two species that had once been separated by the vast gulfs of space. The success of the Eden colony and the thriving hybrid population silenced many of the critics back on Earth and among the luminary. Lyra, now with streaks of grey in her once wild curls, often found herself marveling at how far they had come. She had arrived on this world as a scientist with a desperate mission. Now Lyra, now with streaks of grey in her once wild curls, often found herself marveling at how far they had come. She had arrived on this world as a scientist with a desperate mission. Now she was a leader, a mother figure to an entire generation of hybrid children, and a symbol of what cooperation between species could achieve. One day, as Lyra was working in her lab, old habits die hard, she received an urgent message. A ship was approaching Eden, one that hadn't been scheduled. Her heart raced as she made her way to the command center, fearing some new crisis. But when the ship's occupants were revealed, Lyra felt a wave of emotion wash over her. It was Queen Zara, accompanied by a delegation of luminary elders, including, to Lyra's surprise, Ambassador Vex. As the luminary party disembarked, Lyra could see the awe in their eyes as they took in the thriving colony that had sprung up on this once empty world. Queen Zara approached Lyra, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "Dr. Novak," she said, her mental voice filled with warmth, "we have to see it for ourselves. What you've accomplished here, it's beyond our wildest dreams." Vex stepped forward, his expression humbled. "I was wrong," he said simply. "I feared change, but I see now that change was necessary for our survival. What you've built here, it's not just a colony, it's a new beginning for both our peoples." Lyra felt tears prick at her eyes. "It wasn't just me," she said. "It was all of us working together. Humans, luminary, and now our children. We did this together." As if on cue, a group of hybrid children came running up, their skin glowing with excitement at the new arrivals. Aurora, now a teenager and already showing signs of becoming a brilliant scientist in her own right, was at the forefront. Queen Zara knelt down, marveling at the children. "Hello, little ones," she said softly. "You are the future we dreamed of." The visit of the luminary delegation marked a turning point. News of Eden's success spread throughout Earth and the remaining luminary worlds. What had started as a desperate bid for survival had become a shining example of interspecies cooperation and the power of scientific innovation. Other colonies were established on Eden and elsewhere. The hybrid population grew, and with it new advances in science, art, and philosophy that neither humans nor luminari could have achieved alone. The genetic diversity introduced by the human DNA had indeed saved the luminari from extinction, but it had done so much more than that. It had sparked a renaissance for both species. Years turned into decades, and Lyra Novak, once an outcast scientist, found herself celebrated as one of the greatest pioneers in human and luminary history. But for Lyra, the real reward was seeing the world they had built, the bridges they had formed between two species that had once been strangers. On the evening of her 80th birthday, Lyra stood on the same hilltop where she had once contemplated bringing the first hybrid child into the world. The colony had grown into a sprawling city, its lights twinkling in the alien twilight. Above her, ships from Earth and luminary worlds moved through the sky, a constant reminder of the interstellar community they had forged. Aurora, now a respected scientist and leader in her own right, joined her mother on the hilltop. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, her mental voice gentle. Lyra smiled, looking out over the world they had built. "I'm thinking about legacy," she said softly. "Not my legacy, but humanity's legacy. We came to the stars not as conquerors, but as friends, as problem solvers. We faced a challenge that seemed impossible, and we overcame it not through force or domination, but through cooperation, innovation, and compassion." Aurora nodded, her eyes, so like Lyra's own, gazing out at the horizon. "And in doing so, we became something greater than we were before." "Exactly," Lyra said, her voice filled with pride and hope. "That's humanity's true legacy. Not the buildings we've built or the planets we've settled, but the bridges we've formed, between cultures, between species, between stars." As the twin moons of Eden rose over the alien landscape, Lyra Novak, the woman who had changed the course of two species, felt a profound sense of peace. Whatever challenges the future held, she knew that humanity, the luminari, and the hybrid children would face them together, bound by the unbreakable bonds of friendship, science, and shared destiny. The stars twinkled overhead, no longer distant and unreachable, but a promise of new adventures, new discoveries, and new connections waiting to be made. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as explorers, innovators, and bridge builders. And in doing so, they had written a legacy that would echo across the cosmos for generations to come.